welcome to a new chapter. Sorry I'm doing this early. Last one was pretty much done. But this one is easy. You see, someone did this. Chapters 1 through 3. Okay, not 1 through 3, but he did fucking that much. Up to that part. And what he did after? He gave my number 5. But the story was not done yet. So I was pissed off. Cause he ended way before the fucking thing was done. There's like 44, okay, I wish there was more than that. This one is not done yet, because that was the last one they had. This week they added this, so I'm happy this is something I'm watching, not you guys moved in it. Sorry, but But we're basically doing this one instead. 1 through 45. If that's the ending, then so be it. But if not, then I'm pretty much set. I'm sorry. But it seems like it's done, because the last updated this last year. And it's been like, and it's almost like a whole year later. If it does happen, I'm sorry. So let's continue.
Sweat trickled down Izuku's back, both from exertion and sheer nervousness. He adjusted the headband, feeling as though it should be heavier. Somehow, despite all odds, he'd managed it. He'd taken first place in the sports festival's obstacle course event. He was doing like All Might had told him. He was standing up and proclaiming, "I am here." Of course, he'd also painted a gigantic target on his back while doing so. "This is going to be so great." May Handsome, one of Izuku's teammates, cackled. "By teaming up with the lead player, everyone will get to see my babies. These are pretty cool." Achaku Uraka, Izuku's another of his teammates, agreed. "But do you really have to keep calling them that? What else would I call them?" Hashim demanded. "Now get ready, because I'm about to show you my best one." "We already have the jetpack and hover boots. What else is there?" Izuku asked, adjusting the heavy equipment. "This," Handsome declared, holding up a belt-like device with circular discs interspaced along it. "The omnidirectional repulsor belt. It uses gravitics to deflect incoming blows. Put it on Midoriya and make sure everyone can see it clearly. With that on, no one will even be able to touch you. Won't that keep us from being able to touch him?" Fumikage Takoyami, the last of Izuku's teammates, demanded. "No, it only deflects blows at a sufficient velocity," Handsome clarified. "Just activate it, and you'll be invincible." "That does sound useful," Izuku agreed, taking the belt and strapping it on. He touched the buckle as directed by May, and it let out a soft hum. There was no further time to think as present mic sound at the beginning of the cavalry battle. Just as Izuku feared, nearly every team on the arena floor immediately attempted to attack him, going for the 1,000,000-point headband on Izuku's head that was worth more than 1,000 times as much as the next most valuable. "Now, Uraraka," Izuku called, activating the jetpack. "You got it." Uraraka touched Izuku, activating her quirk. Upon her doing so, several things happened at once. First, the belt that Hatsum had made did indeed operate using gravitational forces, but by being combined with Uraraka's quirk, which nullified gravity, the emitters that controlled the belt's gravitational exertions went into overdrive. Secondly, Uraraka's quirk created a sort of bubble around the rapidly expanding gravitic field, which immediately became superdense, temporarily many times more than that of the mass of the Earth. This created a miniature black hole almost instantly, right at the center of the U.S. Sports Stadium. No sooner than the black hole had formed than it ripped a hole in the space-time continuum, temporarily overlaying one universe with thousands of others and displacing everything and everyone caught within this field from the very fabric of their reality. Oh, and it also immediately turned Izuku and his team into pancakes, killing them instantly. Whoops, that was why the next thing Izuku knew, he was sitting in a chair in a pool of light, blinking in surprise. What just happened?" he gasped. His response was an immediate back and upside the back of his head. "You screwed everything up, that's what." "Oh!" Izuku cried. He looked up to see a very irate young woman stalking around the back of his chair. She snapped her fingers, and the light beneath them formed into a chair, which the girl sank down into, leafing through a stack of papers. "Just look at this," she complained. "Do you have any idea how much trouble that little stunt of yours is going to cause?" Not only did you manage to get yourself killed, which dooms your own timeline and world to set fate, but you also ripped a hole in space-time that's going to cause an enormous mess for untold universes. Already, the tomb world has spilled out and is starting to infect a dozen other worlds. Where am I going to find enough heroes to save them all? This is a lot of work that you've given me. The tirade washed over Izuku, leaving him feeling baffled and stunned as he rubbed the back of his head. I'm sorry, who are you again? Don't you mortals have any respect? I'm a goddess, obviously. Aqua, the goddess in charge of Japan, which means I'm in charge of you. Aqua, the goddess, ranted, looking up from her papers with an angry glare. Oh, Izuku racked his brains, but for the life of him, he couldn't figure out who this goddess was. She had blue hair, was dressed in an elegant blue dress with a skirt so short it was making it really hard for Izuku to pay attention. I'm sorry, Holy One. But, what happened exactly? I was just competing in the UA Sports Festival. I didn't mean to cause so many problems. Well, you did. Aqua sniffed, uncrossing and crossing her legs again. Izuku worked very, very hard to keep his eyes on her face and went beet red in embarrassment. I really ought to send you straight to hell or have you reincarnated as a cockroach. Wait, I died, Izuku demanded. Haven't you been paying attention? Of course you died. That would have killed anyone, the goddess shouted, waving her clipboard about in exasperation. Suddenly a sly look came over her, and she lowered her clipboard, leaning towards Izuku with a gleam of mischief in her eye. Say, I bet you'd really like to avoid that fate, wouldn't you? Yes, Izuku stammered, leaning away from her and feeling very uncomfortable. Goddess she might be, but she looked like an attractive young woman who was invading his space in a way that made Izuku squirm in his seat. Well, I'll tell you what, Aqua declared, putting a hand beside her mouth and whispering in a conspiratorial fashion. You do me a solid and save one of these worlds that your little accident screwed up, and I'll return you back to life just like you were. Okay. What do you need me to do? Izuku asked, still trying to inch away from Aqua. For some reason, her breath reminded him of chips and soft drinks. Well, there's a world I'm in charge of that an old enemy of mine is invading. He's the lord of the tomb, and he's conquered his realm and is trying to invade some other totally innocent ones to bend to his will. Well, I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to do what I always do, recruit a bunch of Japanese teenagers and send them off to beat him. Slowly, Izuku blinked, staring at the puffed-up goddess. Was she insane? Let me get this straight. You send a bunch of ordinary high school kids off to defeat villains that can conquer entire worlds? No, some of them are middle schoolers. She huffed. Look, are you going to agree to this, or am I sending you to the bad place? No, I'll go, Izuku assured her, making a fist. This Aqua might be crazy, but this was a second chance, and Izuku was going to be a hero one way or another. After all, I have a really strong quirk now. I'll train hard, then defeat this lord of the tomb and save the world with a smile on my face. Right, sure, well, I'm even going to grant you a magic item or a powerful magic ability because I'm nice like that, the goddess said, and with a wave of her hand a catalog appeared in the air, floating down into Izuku's hands. Oh wow, Izuku gasped, looking through the pages. There were support items like suits of armor or weapons, or even special quirks like flame manipulation or protective barriers. You can do this? Give me another quirk or a powerful weapon. Quirk? No, it's magic. Surely you've read about this in video games and stuff, right? Aqua said, reclining in her chair and pulling out a bottle of alcohol from somewhere. She popped the cork, taking a long swing, then smacking her lips and sighing. I needed that. Seriously, you have no idea how much trouble you've caused me. You're lucky I'm willing to cut you some slack here. Izuku mused, looking over the catalog. Well, what I really need is something to enhance One for All. A powerful healing item would be good, but I don't know if it will be able to keep up with me all the time. Yeah, sure, whatever, the goddess muttered. You do go on. Man, can't you just choose already? Well, can I pick anything I want? Izuku asked. What about things that aren't listed? This catalog is large, but I'd like to really think about this. Yep, if you want something custom, just let me know. Those are just the presets. But as a goddess, naturally I'm talented enough to make something if I have to. Aqua said with a dismissive wave of her hand. You can even ask, oh, in that case, what I really want is someone or something that has really powerful healing and support abilities and knows a lot about this Lord of the Tomb, Izuku said eagerly. It would be helpful if they knew a lot about this world as well, someone to guide me. Okay, one healing and support companion coming up, Aqua declared. She stood up, setting aside her bottle and made a grand gesture. A fountain of light splashed up, making Izuku gasp in surprise. As the light faded, though, nothing happened. Oh no, Aqua suddenly moaned. Oh no, 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 not again. A magical circle appeared around them and began to glow brightly. You dumbass! Aqua screamed, jumping forward to grab Izuku by his shirt collar. You asked for a magical companion with super strong healing magic and support abilities and could guide you? Yes, Izuku said, trying to shy away from Aqua. She might be beautiful, but she was clearly also insane. That perfectly describes me, and I just granted your wish, Aqua wailed. She dropped Izuku, running over to pound on the edges of the circle as they glowed brighter and brighter. Let me out! Let me out! I'm not going back again. You can't do this to me. I thought we closed that loophole. Aqua, what? Izuku began, but then the circle suddenly flashed so brightly it blinded Izuku, and he raised an arm to cover his eyes. When the light faded, he found himself standing in a grassy field with a wailing goddess flopping on the ground. What just happened? Izuku said, edging away from Aqua. Izuku said, edging away from Aqua. Where's the magical companion you said I would get? You idiot! Goddess Requiem! Aqua screamed. She jumped up, aiming a fist for Izuku's face. He easily dodged to the side as Aqua stumbled past him. When she charged again, Izuku stood his ground, catching her fist in his hand. She was strong enough that it made Izuku grunt, but even without one for all, he'd been strength training for months and easily blocked the blow. What's the big deal? Izuku gasped. You dragged me into an adventure again. Aqua screamed, tears flowing down her cheeks. You big stupid meanie. I'm the most powerful healing and support object ever given to an adventure, and I know tons about this world and that stupid jerk invading it. Oh, Izuku said, frowning. Well, I guess you can just go back again if it bothers you so much. I can find a way to stop this villain on my own. I can't. Not until we defeat the Lord of the Tomb, Aqua sniffed. She knelt in the dirt, sobbing and moaning. You're probably just another stupid NEET who never leaves his house and has all sorts of perverted fantasies. I bet you're not even smart like Kazuma was. Izuku stepped back, feeling both outraged and slightly ashamed at Aqua's display and accusations. Hey, I'm not a NEET. I was enrolled in Ua High School. It's the most prestigious hero school in Japan, maybe even the entire world. I've never even heard of that. And why are you wearing a dumb tracksuit? Kazuma always said he wasn't a NEET, but that was a filthy lie. Aqua snarled, standing and glaring at Izuku. Because I was participating in the school sports festival. Honest and I would never do anything, like you said. I'm not mine. HMPH. I can't believe Aqua. This is going to be such a mess to sort out. Maybe I can get Kazuma and the others to send me some actually strong adventurers to help me. Hey, I didn't trick you. You should have been clearer or not picked yourself as my bonus. Izuku argued. I don't know anything about this. Aqua inhaled, ready to lay into Izuku again when there was a sudden flash of light on a nearby hilltop. They were in the middle of some idyllic-looking grassland. There were low rolling hills around them, each of them were giant monstrosities, humanoid skeletal figures that all stood over 2 meters tall. They were nearly all armed and armored with dark metal, bearing mismatched weapons and shields. One of the monsters stood out to Izuku as unlike the others. It bore a staff and wore dark robes of fine make and was a little shorter than its companions. New heroes, the staff-wielding skeleton hissed. The great lord demands you either bow to him or die. Make your choice. It matters not to me. What the hell? Aqua, this is a low. Bow to the great lord or face his wrath. The sorceress undead screamed. Despite being caught off guard, Izuku was already thinking. Aqua, these undead, they're monsters threatening the people of this world, right? Yes, they'll slaughter anyone who gets in their way. The Lord of the Tomb can summon endless hordes of them, that's why he must be stopped, Aqua declared. Fools. The leader laughed, a dry, rasping sound like a death rattle. Kill them all. The armored undead began to stride forward, but Izuku raised one hand. He'd come up with a plan to help him win the sports festival, a way to use One for All without totally destroying his arm. Now he had to hope it would work. He concentrated, placing his pinky beneath his thumb, then letting One for All flow into. He snapped his finger out with all his might, causing a great gust of wind to explode from his fingers and slam into the undead. One raised its shield and buffered the blow with it, but another was flung to the ground in a clatter of bones, while two slammed into one another. What the heck? Aqua gasped. Since when did you learn wind magic? But Izuku was already moving. The one with the staff, he was the boss. Izuku dodged around the still stunned foes, racing towards the leader. What is this? Die human! A stream of black smoke raced out of the staff, and the grass that had touched immediately withered and died. Izuku leapt to the side, roaring in anger. He got close, then put all his power into his left arm. Smash! The mage dodged away, but just the force of Izuku's blow passing by was enough to shatter its bones. The red lights in the eye sockets of the creature were snuffed out as its bony body was pulverized. The rope shredded, and the broken staff was flung away. Izuku stood, panting, cradling his now damaged arm with the other. His own body was badly bruised and broken, and he winced in pain, turning to face the other undead. They were standing now, moaning and hissing in anticipation. Apparently, killing the leader hadn't stopped them. Well, Izuku turned undead. Aqua stood above the undead, her lips curled in disgust. She raised a spark. Their empty suits of armor and weapons clattered to the ground as their souls were released with a sigh of resignation. Wow, Izuku said, goggling at the destroyed foes. HMPH. Of course I am, Aqua said, suddenly giggling. She turned seriously. Wow, what did you... Yeah, that's, my quirk. Don't you know about it? Izuku asked, feeling a bit lightheaded from the pain. Aqua shook her. You can't immediately... It's... is that a compliment? I mean, quirk isn't as insulting as some of the stuff Kazuma called me. Aqua, you don't know what a quirk is. Izuku asked, baffled. But you're the goddess in charge of Japan. Surely you know about quirks. I mean, 80% of the population does have them. Of course, I'm the goddess in charge of Japan. Why, thanks to me, dozens of worlds have been saved by brave Japanese heroes, Aqua bragged. Right, you mean Japanese high school students. I thought you were picking the ones with the strongest quirks, Izuku said, rubbing his healed arm and marveling at how it felt. This was even better than what Recovery Girl did. In fact, it almost felt like Aqua had repaired some of the damage that had been lingering from when he'd overused his quirk in the past. Okay, seriously, the hell is a quirk? Aqua snapped. And how did you get so I don't know any magic, and my quirk doesn't really control the wind. I can just put so much force into my fingers that I can send out shockwaves of air, Izuku explained. That is how I broke my arm, though. I don't have the best control over it yet, and most of the time I seriously injure myself when I use it, unfortunately. But I'm getting better. One day, I'll be able to use my quirk without hurting myself at all, and I'll be the... Aqua looked confused, scratching at the side of her head with one hand in befuddlement. For a goddess, she seemed to do that a lot. Wait, you've got like super strength or something. That's weird. Your stats were good and all on your info sheet, but not that high. If I remember right, it was your intelligence that was highest. There was that weird special ability you had, One for All, but I didn't really look at it. And who the heck is All Might? Wait, you don't know who All Might is? He's the greatest hero in Japan, no, the world. He's fought dozens of super strong villains like Toxic Chainsaw. And, well, One for All, that's my quirk. Seriously, how can you not know about quirks? They've been around since the 21st century and the before times. Aqua blinked. But in Japan, the year should be 2016, no more than 2017. I know I'm bad at keeping track of mortal time, but not much can have gone by. And heroes, villains. I really don't understand. Izuku ended up giving an increasingly befuddled Aqua a brief history of the world and background on quirks. Wait, so everyone in your Japan is born with these weird special abilities? That must be how you ripped a hole in reality and caused so many problems. I thought it was just a weird equipment malfunction, Aqua said as they walked along a path towards a distant town. Honestly, I don't know what happened. Everything was going just fine, and then suddenly I was in that place with you, Izuku admitted. But I don't get it. I thought you were the goddess of Japan. You mean you're from the past or something? Maybe, I don't know. This is all really weird, Aqua sniffed. She glared at Izuku suddenly. But you're going to have to defeat the Lord of the Tomb. I'm warning you, he's really strong. I guess I can help, but don't expect me to carry all the weight. At least you're not a useless neat like the last guy who dragged me out on an adventure. I'm okay, Izuku agreed. I mean, I'd want to help save this world, even if it's a strange one. But if you can heal me, I won't have to worry about overusing one for all so much. Yeah, okay. This might be easier than the last time when I defeated the Devil King, Aqua laughed. Come on, Izuku. Let's go to the Adventurers Guild and get started. Adventurers Guild? That's like the Hero Public Safety Commission, right? Izuku asked. Aqua gave him a blank, vacant look. Izuku almost thought he could see the back of her skull through her eyes. You know, the people in charge of organizing heroes and sending them off to fight villains and monsters. Oh yes, that. Of course. And if you beat up a bunch of strong monsters, they give you money so that you can get all sorts of stuff like alcohol or food or all kinds of things. Just so you know, the last time I was an adventurer, I was an archpriest, and I was super rich and famous. The entire land talked about the famous goddess, Aqua, and her companions, who defeated the Devil King and saved the world. She bragged. As they got nearer to the village, Izuku took a good look around at it. The buildings were made of simple wood, with thatched roofs and painted in bright colors. As Izuku and Aqua approached, two nervous-looking men barred their path. They were both dressed in rough-spun clothing that had been crudely dyed in reds and greens, but had on rough leather jerkins and battered metal helms. One was carrying an old-looking rusted spear, and the other had a battered old shield and a long knife. Stop right there, monsters. The man with the spear stammered, pointing it at Izuku. Monsters? Aqua erupted. We are not monsters. I will have you know that I am Aqua, goddess of water and archpriest of the Axis Church. This is Izuku Midoriya, my chosen champion. We have come to rid your world of the Lord of the Two. Are you the... I mean, you both got funny colored hair and weird clothes. You look like monsters to me, Aqua the water goddess, his companion asked. Isn't that some minor no-account deity from the old religion? What? Aqua shrieked. I am a senior goddess, I will have you know. I have already defeated the Devil King in a far-off land, and I have come here to rid you of the evils of your world. I am not some no-account deity, don't you worship me in this land. What about Eris? Eris, the two men looked at Eris, goddess of fortune, pats her chest. Aqua prompted, making Izuku want to crawl into a hole and die. This was supposed to be a divine being? She sounded like goddess of fortune. You mean like Chris, the noble thief? The man. Aqua, yes, her. Do you worship her? No, not really. She's more of a demigod anyway. We're mostly followers of Psyche Dio here, goddess of preparation and forethought, the men admitted. How well that sounds like some lame, stupid goddess I've never even heard of, Aqua stated, moving forward. I'm Aqua. Or maybe you should calm down a little bit, Izuku said, gently pulling the ranting deity away. He quickly bowed politely to the men. Hello, I'm Izuku Midoriya. We're, well, I guess we're here to stop this Lord of the Tomb. We fought some really strange monsters. Are you a god too? One of the men asked, scratching his head. They're not gods, you dummy, they're just foreign or something, his friend told him. Look, this here's just a village. We don't have any guilds based here. Heck, you're the first mercenaries we've seen in a good long while. Are you two just talk? I don't see any gear, just, I guess I sort of have some magic, Izuku said, but it's pretty destructive. It makes me really strong. The men exchanged looks. Well, Amy's lame, been so since birth. If you heal her, maybe we can trust you. One of the men left to run into one of the nearby farmhouses, while the other uneasily guarded Isku and Aqua. To his shock and bewilderment, Aqua was sulking, her cheeks buffed out as she muttered under her. A few minutes later, the man returned, carrying a young girl with light brown hair and hazel eyes in his arms. She was dressed in the same rough spun clothes, but one of her legs was clearly malformed. She was clinging to her father tightly, looking terrified. Upon seeing the crippled child, Aqua's demeanor changed entirely, going from, "Oh my gosh, are you okay, dear? Why has no one healed your leg before? This doesn't look that bad. Any low-level priest could have fixed this easily. Does this Psyche Dio's clergy have no compassion? Well, healing magic like that's expensive, and clerics strong enough to perform it don't come out to little towns like this often. They're needed elsewhere," the man admitted. "But if you can help my daughter, we'll pay. Honest, we will." "HMPH, I am a god." Aqua reached out a hand, touching the child's twisted foot and smiling at her. "Be at peace, little one. In the name of Aqua, goddess of water, be healed." A soft glow emanated from Aqua's hands, and the little girl gasped. When the glow faded, her foot was no longer malformed, but normal looking. She started to wriggle in her father's arms, and he set her down. Right away, the girl began to run and jump, laughing and cheering in delight. "Look, Papa, look. I can walk now." From the house behind her, her mother and siblings poured out, laughing and crying to see their sister's hurts mended. Haizku muttered, watching as Aqua basked in the praise. "Maybe she's not a useless goddess after all. Oh, how sweet the innocence of youth."
Okay, this is me chapter 2 now. We're starting chapter 2 now.
You think darkness is your ally. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a bird. By then it was nothing to me but blinding. Fumikage Takwiyami. The dark victor stood over the corpses of his foes, shadows swirling about him. And so they fall one by one, my foes hapless before my dark power. Sato Kazuma rubbed the bridge of his nose and let out a heavy sigh. "Careful, bird brain, or you're going to cut yourself on all that edge." Seriously, he was doing this. Again, after defeating the Devil King, he'd wanted to have a nice, long retirement. Preferably one where he shacked up with Megumin, maybe actually she'd his virgin neat status for good, but that had lasted about 10 seconds. No sooner was Aqua gone back to the divine realm than another Devil King showed up, this one calling himself the Lord of the Tomb or some such bullshit. So, of course, Kazuma had been tasked with forming a party of adventurers to go off and defeat the Lord of the Tomb. Since he'd been asked by his dear little sister Iris, he'd naturally obliged. Heck, he'd even had divine help in the form of a certain thief. He'd also gotten Union to tag along as well, seeing as how she was actually pretty handy in a fight, and then things had all gone to hell almost immediately. Turned out this Lord of the Tomb was a super powerful undead lick with hordes of demons and monsters at his beck and call. It would have been really useful right then to have a goddess that was an infinity +1 sword against the undead, but instead they'd had a complete TKP. He'd wound up in the divine realm, and then his actual retirement had begun. See, Aqua and Eris had sworn they'd get Kazuma and friends and Union resurrected or reincarnated, but then something had gone wrong and apparently the Lord of the Tomb had conquered the world or some such BS, so the goddesses were busy processing all the dead people, which had meant that Kazuma, Megumin, and Darknesso and Union had been allowed to sort of just hang out in Aqua's divine paradise. Aqua had unlimited high-speed internet and all the latest games, and Kazuma had wasted no time in converting his party to Enneadhood. Admittedly, the girls had gotten a bit bored lately, but why complain? All the creature comforts they could want, and they'd never get old. Sometimes Aqua roped them into a few favors for her, but Kazuma didn't mind that much. It was sort of amusing to get to play little god for a while and pass judgment on poor lost souls. He'd sent loads of neat gamer types to other realms to be heroes, even giving them some cheat items and good advice. Really, he should just be promoted to deity and be given an award. Until this jackass showed up. Kazuma muttered. He glared at his companion, a bird-headed high school boy from some sort of world Kazuma had never heard of before. "Are you done posing yet?" "I am not posing." Takwiyami intoned, resting one leg atop the breastplate of the fallen undead. "I am brooding." He covered his face with his hand, letting out a dramatic sigh. My dark powers were too much. Once more they have erupted and slain those around me. Kazuma pursed his lips and made a face, looking down at the shattered skeletons beneath Takuyami's feet. Talons? No, he had on shoes, must be feet. Yeah, real impressive. You totally wasted a bunch of low-level undead. Real awesome. Yeah, the bird boy's shadow squawked. We're totally wicked. Dark Shadow, I believe he was insulting us. He does not comprehend my burden, the bird boy said. Apparently, he was human, but from yet another world. That was the weird part. Aqua had burst in on Kazuma and Megumin right as they'd been in the middle of an epic grinding session. Union had been trying and failing to play with them, while Darkness had taken a break for another of her workout sessions. Holy crap, guys, there's a big disaster. I need all hands on deck. You've got to help me. I've got thousands, maybe millions of souls to judge all at once. Aqua panted. Yeah, just let us finish this dungeon run. 'Cause, guys, wait. Union wailed, helplessly clicking her mouse as her character was caught in some random geometry again. How these pathetic fools shall face the might of my ultimate technique. Megumin chortled as her hands furiously dashed across the keyboard, unloading spells into the dungeon trash. Credit where credit was due, she turned out to be quite the gaming prodigy. She was no match for Kazuma, of course, mostly because she always came up with insane builds that revolved around unleashing a single nuke that nearly always pulled aggro or left her at no HP and MP. But that one nuke was a sight to behold. No, guys, now. Aqua snapped. Union squeaked and took off her headset, quickly scampering over, but Kazuma and Megumin were in the zone and just ignored her. Ugh, Darkness, make them stop. Darkness had gotten up from doing her crunches, flushed and looking pent up and tense as usual. Apparently, no sex was a hard and fast rule in the divine realm, as Kazuma and Megumin had discovered when his holy sword had utterly failed to rise to the occasion. It sucked, but at least he had twat wafus and video games now. Of course, it also meant that since there was no pain or suffering, Darkness could not stimulate herself either. So she just did a lot of exercises and occasionally played games with Kazuma and Megumin. She was actually a really good tank once she'd figured out how aggro worked. She did complain it wasn't satisfying enough, though. Friggin' pervert. Wait, Darkness, no, don't. Kazuma pleaded, but she simply unplugged the router, dropping their connection. Damn it, there goes the run. We have a duty to fulfill. Darkness vowed, making a fist. I failed one realm, I shall not fail another. You're just horny and bored again, Kazuma complained, but he set down his headphones and sighed. They'd had that dungeon on farm anyway, even with Union's pathetic attempts. Yeah, fine, I'll help judge lost souls or whatever. You coming, Megumin? Yes, they shall all tremble before my crimson gaze, Megumin declared, wrapping herself in her cloak and putting on her mage hat. She normally lazed around in her pajamas like Kazuma did, but she did love to play up the drama of a good soul judging session. Can I help? Maybe I can assist you, Lady Aqua, Union offered. Aqua glanced at Union. Didn't I reincarnate you already? You said you would, but then you got drunk and, oh yeah, whatever. Go help Eris. Aqua, I'm busy. Maybe I could help my best friend Megumin then. Ha, Megumin, dark goddess of explosions, does not need the help of her inferior rivals. Begone, demon, lest I banish you from this. Megumin had twirled her staff and struck a pose as Union ran off crying. Do you really have to be so hard on her? Kazuma sighed. HMPH. She insists on being my rival even now. Besides, I see the kinds of wafers you look up. Megumin had sniffed. It is best if busty temptation does not come your way. Oh, come on. If neither of us can get laid, at least let a guy relieve some tension. Kazuma had protested, but he'd changed into his old adventuring gear instead of his tracksuit and gone off to judge a few souls. The first one had thrown him for a loop. For one thing, he'd always just judged regular humans before. When he'd seen the name Fumikage Takuyami, he'd thought that was what he was going to do again. Oh, how wrong he had been. Can we just get going? I'm hungry, and it's going to get dark soon, and I'd just as much assume we stay at Kazuma. He and Takuyami were stuck out in the middle of the wilderness near one of the supposed starter towns in whatever world currently needed adventurers to help defeat the Lord of the Tomb. He kept showing up, which was weird, but Kazuma didn't care all that much. Usually. Now he sort of wished he'd paid more attention. Finally, Takayami nodded. Yes, it would be wise for you to get under cover before nightfall. In the dark, Great Kazuma had traded in one melodramatic middle, and this one wasn't even a hot chick to make up. Oh well, at least he seemed to be competent in a fight. Those undead knights had ambushed them only minutes after they'd arrived here in this new world, and Takayami and his weird quirk or whatever had annihilated them in short order. Megumin or Darkness could have beat up low-level mooks like that. Kazuma grumbled under his breath as they walked out of the canyon and picked their way down the rocky mountain slope. The path wasn't too hard, and there were lots of grassy handholds and a few trees growing on the mountainside. What was that? Are you complaining that I chose you as my bonus again, Tak? 'Cause no, I miss my friends, you chicken-headed moron. Why do you have to go and demand that I be your cheat item? You could have had anything, like a magic sword or maybe a black cloak that always blew in a dramatic wind so you could have your little juvenile delusions whenever you wanted. I simply said that if you were so well acquainted with the destruction of evil overlords, why don't you accompany me and show me how? Takayami shot back. Yay, shut up, you useless dark shadow, the apparently sentient dark. This guy was even worse at naming stuff than Megumin. A half-smile appeared on Kazuma's lips as he caressed the hilt of Chunchinmaru on his back. Sure, at first he'd hated that stupid name, and it was still rather embarrassing, but now, well, there was something to remind him of Megumin. He was going to miss his little jailbait and, well, if he were honest with himself, Darkness and Aqua too. They just better not let Union use his character. She'd waste all his good items. Well, now Kazuma was stuck with Captain Edgebird here, who claimed to be from some wacky version of Japan where people had all these weird quirks or whatever. Kazuma just figured that meant they were all a bunch of overdramatic dumbasses like Takayami. Megumin really would have loved it, but Kazuma was already sick of the nonsense. The village down below them seemed to be built of houses made out of mortared stones with tile roofing, with a couple of scattered larger buildings. Supposedly, it was a starter town with low-level monsters around that you could use to level up. Those undead had actually been fairly high-level, despite Kazuma's disparaging remarks. Dread knights and a skeletal mage. Pretty powerful foes, and he'd been scared near shitless until Takayami had dispatched them with ease. Edgelord he might be, but apparently he could back up the posturing. Sorry, brooding dot. As they approached, a few villagers looked up and noticed them. Several pointed and screamed, then ran off. I do not understand. Why do they fear us? Takayami asked Kazuma, frowning. Probably because you look like a reject from the latest monster manual. Kazuma sighed. Look, I'll handle this. Let me do the talking. HMPH very well. Prove your worth, Kazuma. Takayami agreed, since it apparently does not lie in combat. Hey, listen, I play a vital role. I'm the plan man and the skill monkey, Kazuma argued. Plus, I didn't ask to be dragged into this world. Well, you were so insistent that I save it, and rather boastful of your own talk. As I recall, you claim to essentially have defeat. Yeah, but you're a wimp. You suck. Dark. I do not suck. I did defeat the Devil King. I just, had some friends who helped me. Kazuma muttered as they walked past the first houses towards the village. Takayami smirked at Kazuma, which was impressive, considering he had a beak. I suppose that I can provide the combat prowess in this party, such as my burden. Oh, you're correct, Kazuma agreed. Guess everyone's halt monster. Kazuma, no, Takayami, however, was not impressed and stepped forward, making a slashing motion with one hand. I am no monster. True, I am a being of shadow, a demon. Is it a strong, the sort that does all sorts of cruel, unspeakable things to two poor, a new voice? Darkness, I think I know the guy. He's actually. I would never intentionally befoul a lady. But beware. If you should awaken my demon. Okay, seriously, Takayami. You recognize me, right? A girl a couple of years younger than Kazuma, dressed in the same red and blue tracksuit as Edgebird, stepped out from behind a building, putting a sword back into its sheath at her side. She was pretty cute in a bubbly sort of way and definitely had a decent rack, easily an 8/10. There's really no need to fight. Oh no, I insist. Darkness, the world's most perverted knight declared, practically salivating as she hurried around the corner, her sword out in both hands. Let me face this terrible down, girl, Kazuma ordered, pushing past Takuyami. And you chill out, Edgebird. There will be no fighting and no attempts to out-ERP each other. Keep that stuff to private chat. KK Kazuma. Darkness gasped, taking a step back and going even brighter red than she had before. What are you doing here? I should ask the same of you, Sir Pervert. Kazuma snapped, stalking over to glare up at Darkness. It really wasn't fair that she was so much taller than him or so much more well-muscled. I thought you were supposed to be helping Aqua judge those souls and recruit some more people to fight the Lord of the Tomb. Darkness lowered her sword, stammering and looking embarrassed. Well, she was bored and wanted to come with me, and she's like super buff and tough and said she'd teach me everything she knew about fighting monsters, so I chose her as my bonus, Uraka said, smiling at Kazuma. Hello, are you Takuyami's bonus? Kazuma, right. I'm Achako Uraka, pleased to meet you. Sato Kazuma. A pleasure, miss, Kazuma said, reaching out to take Uraka's hand. But of course Darkness had to slap his hand away. Off of her, Kazuma. You're not going to work your wiles on this innocent young lady. Not when you have promised yourself to Megumin. Then Darkness looked coy. Of course, now that we're out of the divine realm, if you were to feel lonely at night and you had enough MP for your bind skill. No, I told you I am not into that. Kazuma snapped, jerking away. He sighed, looking at Uraka. Let me guess, you got sweet-talked into taking this walking disaster zone with you. What exactly happened? Well, I guess Uraka said, glancing at Takuyami, who looked up. Yes, I met this individual who claimed to be some sort of god and said he would allow me to take on the mighty task of defeating the Lord of the Tomb. Naturally, my dark powers called to me, and I undertook this perilous mission too. I was a bit worried it would just be me and Darkness, but it looks like we have a whole adventuring party, Uraka said excitedly. We already beat up a bunch of undead monsters and saved this village. They made us their local heroes and said to come and defeat a new monster they saw up in the mountains, but I'm guessing that was just you, Takuyami. Darkness is like super tough, and with my anti-gravity quirk, it was a piece of cake to destroy those guys. Uraka flexed her arm and grinned. We'll beat this tomb guy in no time. Wait, are you like normal? Kazuma asked cautiously. And competent. Yes, Uraka burbled. Plus, Darkness is going to teach me how to fight. Check it out, I already got this sword from the Baroness. Uraka drew her blade, holding it out for Kazuma and Takuyami to see in both hands. It looked like an ordinary arming sword to Kazuma, but Uraka seemed extraordinarily pleased with her dart. It made Kazuma snort, and he looked at Darkness. Wait, you're going to learn how to use a sword from her. For one thing, she uses two-handed swords, not a one-hander like that. For another, she couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with her sword. I could hit a barn, Darkness muttered, if it did not move too much. Is that why you had such a hard... they couldn't scratch you with that cool armor and all, but, well, I did have to destroy them all myself. Yet this Crusader is actually pretty useless. Kazuma, well, come on. Let's go find the local Adventurers Guild. I'll need another card. Mine got destroyed when we... Oh, there isn't one. We already checked. Wait, what? What sort of starting town is this? Kazuma. Every starting town in an RPG has to have an It was Uraka's turn to look at Kazuma. I know that, but the last world I was in totally worked on the same rules. There were adventurers, a guild, skill points, magic, the works. That sounds highly unlikely, Takuyami said, folding his arms over his chest. And utterly absurd. Skill points? What, did you simply learn new quirks whenever you felt like it? Or somehow acquire combat skills at the push of a button? Well, yeah, Kazuma admitted. Hey, Darkness, back me up on this one. He's right. I put all my points into defense and HP and skills that would draw the ire of foes, so, my offensive abilities are rather lacking, Darkness admitted. Truly, I did not realize that Kazuma was originally from Japan until after we had died. I thought he was making that up and the bit about Aqua being a goddess. I never even realized I was actually close friends with my own goddess, Eris. I knew you weren't a god. Takoyami laughed. What, are you an ordinary high school student who got transported to another world like in those silly stories for children? I was, but then I became a god, just like darkness became a goddess. Kazuma snapped. Then he almost immediately relented from the incredulous expressions of the two hapless high schoolers he had as tag-alongs. Well, okay, demigods. We had a few divine responsibilities like judging souls and granting divine gifts to prospective recruits to fight the Lord of the Tomb and his minions. Darkness looked down, shuffling her feet. Mostly we sat in Aqua's chambers and played video games. I was quite fond of the MMOs that Kazuma introduced to me. I rather enjoyed taunting hordes of monsters and having them wail on my character. Well, I mean, that's you're still sort of a goddess, right? Yoraka asked, looking very uncertain now. Not, Darkness admitted. Demigod, we're demigods, okay. Listen, we've both defeated the Devil King. And Kazuma was not going to admit the Devil King just been some random asshole from Japan who happened to get the right cheat items to fool everyone into thinking he was the Devil King, and we performed divine judgment. We're like super important. I think you're lying. You have yet to prove even the... I think... Oh yeah? Kazuma, you want to see some? Oh, please enlighten me. Takoyami said, yeah, dark shit. You asked for it. Kazuma snarled. The next thing Kazuma knew, he was down in the dirt and his jaw hurt. Darkness was crouching over. Kazuma, are you well? Yeah, he groaned. That was, a pretty good hit, Darkness. Geez, I didn't even mean to do that. Well, this time, that wasn't me. That was Uraraka. When you took her undergarment, well, I must say, I think the girl has potential as an adventurer. Only level 1 and such a powerful blow. Granted, you are rather weak, but still she took out a medium-level adventurer in just one hit. Yeah, Kazuma sighed, sitting up. He looked around, spot. Why'd she knock out him too? She didn't. She didn't touch me. Takoyami gasped. You're worse than Mina. That was hilarious. One blow and you've got a glass jaw. With Darkness help, Kazuma got back to his feet, rubbing his sore jaw. Yeah. Damn uptight bitch. I would talk. It wasn't even my fault, Kazuma, but he resolved to be rather respectful toward. She just about broken his jaw. She went from an 8/10 to a 6/10. Well, 7/10. She was pretty cute. Come, let us meet with Baroness von Galen. I would learn more about this world we've dark. Perhaps you should let me do the talking for once, Kazuma. Sure thing, Lalatina. Kazuma. Darkness. Lalatina. I don't like my name. Darkness muttered. Just call me Darkness. I rejected my family name when I became an adventurer. Oh, don't let her grace, Mayor Lalatina for dustiness fool you. Kazuma chuckled, warming to his theme. Sure, at first she was a bad girl, but she just kept shouldering more and more responsibility. By the end of it, she was practically wallowing in her responsibilities. Oh, only because I had to. Darkness protested as they walked through the village. People were peeking out of window shutters now, gazing at Kazuma and his companions with wide eyes. Truly, I want nothing more than to be Darkness, a valiant crusader who walks a dark path to protect those she loves. Yes, you were rejected by society, your own primal urges driving you to the shadows. There you found strength and knew that forevermore you would be marked. Darkness. Why, yes, exactly. Something within me could not be content in polite society. I was an outcast, an exile. Only when my true powers were revealed and I could no longer hide did the nobility accept me again. Yes, you know what it is to walk the dark path, so that you may defend those who live in the light. Takoyami agreed, dark shadows spreading out around him so that it seemed that the shadows were emanating from Takoyami. Oh, wow, all we need is Megumin here and we'd have our little junior high edge fest complete. Kazuma sighed. I thought you were going to be polite long enough to meet this Baroness von something or other. Oh, yes, right. Darkness agreed. She took a deep breath. I shall restrain myself and put on the mask of Lalatina. Indeed, I shall subdue my inner demons, that I will not strike fear into the hearts of the unenlightened. Takoyami agreed, and dark shadow shrank down to the size of a normal shadow. Oh boy, Kazuma sighed. Here we go again. I'm stuck with a perverted crusader at Sundir and Edgebird. Well, I beat a devil king once. How bad can it be? Kazuma deliberately did not mention that he had, in fact, watched all his friends die once already. This time would be different. Somehow.
Here, last first chapters. So here, please like it.